Steve, physically you've been a top athlete. Are you still in good shape?
I have been since the diagnosis, believe it or not. That's really kickstarted me to train again. So I jumped on the old Peloton bandwagon, but I must admit it's the best thing I've ever had. So yeah, I train every day now, and I look to do some big long cycles a few times a year. But it's more because I've got young kids, so I just want to make sure I can do as much as I can to stay as fit as I can and as healthy as long as I can.
Of course, one of the greatest moments of your career was the 2003 World Cup final. You must be sick of questions about it. But you were there, you made sporting history. I know your memory is hazy, but what are your emotions when you watch it back with friends and family?
The thing is, it isn't even hazy. I can't even remember being in Australia. I've lost a big block of about 10 years of my life, really. I'm going to be, when I watch it, I've had to watch it a few times over the last few days, really. Just emptiness, if I'm honest. It's weird. It's not even the emotion, because it feels like I'm supposed to have an emotion towards it. I feel even less than if I was watching England without me playing in it. I'd be so happy that England's won the World Cup, but because there's supposed to really be emotion from me because I'm there doing it, playing it, it's even worse because it's weird. I sort of see myself as a bit of a liar, really, because, people ask me that and it's happened and I've seen it, but I don't know anything about it. So it's quite a bizarre sort of feeling, really. And I don't even get goosebumps or excitement when I see it happen. So like I said, yeah, it's more of an emptiness when I see it.
Is it like watching somebody else in the scrum rather than you?
Yeah, totally. It's just someone that looks like me, someone, big, fat and ugly. So, it's just like, it looks like it should be me. But yeah, it's like I'm watching England play now, but there's someone that looks quite similar to me there.
Now, I know that you've watched the run-up to that World Cup glory with a colleague and you don't remember too much. Thank God it's obviously part of your legacy. Are you still in touch with the people you played with?
A couple, like Ben Cohen and Lewis Moody. I'm close with. I was close when I was young with them, and then also afterwards now. So it's weird because we get together and they'll start putting out photos of us being in what's it called? Manly, and having coffee and stuff like that. I'm just, no, not at all. And it's bizarre. And they just keep, I've been on the set of Lords of the Rings in New Zealand, and I didn't even know I'd done that. So it's weird. It's as if I'm learning new things. So my kids think it's amazing because they're like, oh, look, because people are giving me pictures and they're like, oh, you've done that, Daddy. And I'm just, no, I just don't know.
If you can't have a grasp of those specific moments or occasions, how about the relationships and chemistry with people like Ben Cohen? Is that something that has stayed with you more than the occasions themselves?
Because I knew them before, and it's weird. Like I've had I moved away to Dubai, so I was away for years as well. But it's a weird sensation that I meet some people and it's like, oh, I should like you. Plus, I've got close friends. My closest friend and one of the closest friends like Ben Cohen, but then also Simon Heathell turns around to me and it's a bit like, for some reason, I don't like that person. I'm not sure why. And he's like, no, you shouldn't. He's a bit of a pain in the backside towards you. See what I mean? Stuff like that. And then, and it's weird. Or people come up to me and they'll say, oh, hi, Steve, lovely to see you. I spent time with you when, in early or mid 2000s. And I'm just like, sorry, I'm really sorry. I just haven't got a clue. And, it sounds awful. Sometimes, oh, yeah, because you don't want to be rude. But then suddenly I'm thinking to myself, am I being ruder by just agreeing? Because obviously they do know because the way they're behaving towards me. But other times I'm just like, I just don't know.
What have been your emotions surrounding your diagnosis, Steve? Is it anger, acceptance, disappointment? How do you feel on a daily basis?
It's all up and down, really. And I'm sort of coming to a bit more grips with it now, and the family, we're all getting used to it. And relief, I must admit, at first, because, when you're going through the testing and everything like that, because of COVID, it was taking longer. And, and everyone involved was brilliant, but it just, like I said, it just took longer, like everything did, didn't it? Let's be honest. So there was like denial as well at times. I think, there's nothing wrong with me. I feel, when I'm having a quite good, I'm absolutely fine, and suddenly, bam, I just go. Memory starts going. And I just start getting worried about even going out and doing stuff. But I'll be honest, I've been very close to taking my life and committing suicide, and that's been really hard. And when you see, the last thing I want to do is drain from my friends and family. Be one of these people when the phone rings, they go, "Oh, can't. What's going to be his mood now?" And so I've gone on to medication, which it sounds bad, but I'll speak up front. Like, I always thought I'd never be one of those people, but I am now. And I look at it and I think, well, if I can make my life better, it's not about me really. It's about my kids and my family and my friends. So if I can level myself out and be more consistent, because that's the most tiring part really. This is the inconsistency, the sort of anger on one side, and then suddenly the loneliness and worrying on the other, and it just drains you. Like, it just gets to a point where, I was open and I say to people, like, I was one of these, if people committed suicide, they were weak, and that's the way I used to see it. But in that moment, when you're close to it, you're probably the most selfless person in your mind there is, because you just had enough, and you don't want to drain other people, and you don't want to take other people down, and that's why I know people do it now, because I've been there myself and close to it, but understanding what's wrong with me. Now I've got something to battle against and think, right, there is something wrong with me. It sounds bad. There's something to blame, but I can't blame that totally. I've got to fight that now and just get myself as better and as more consistent for everyone than I can. And the thing is, there's hundreds of us out there now. There's a few. A couple of years ago, Alex Popham has just been phenomenal, helping us, and he's one of the first that came out. And he's been like a driving force behind this. And, I lent on him a lot at the beginning. But then suddenly, there was 8, 9, 10, 20, 30, 40. And then now we're in the hundreds that have been diagnosed. And there's just so many more. And, once I put my head out above, because I had a nice, quiet life, and that's what I wanted. But now it's like, to do the book that I've done, and for people to come out and already start saying, Steve, like, it's unbelievable. And that's non-sports people as well, like people that have got family members with dementia, or people that are actually suffering with it as well, their early onset dementia. They're just like, it's just made a lot more people realise what it's all about, and hopefully just recognise what people are going through, and understand it really.
The book's incredible, so moving. Tell me about the process of putting it together. Was it therapeutic for you?
Believe it or not, it was. John Woodhouse, who wrote it with me, was just phenomenal. Like, I've been asked to do books and I've never been interested, but I sat down with John and he just got it straight away. Like, I had one meeting with him. He put together a small clip of what he believed we should do. I come up with the idea of talking to other people and for them putting in the sections that I didn't remember and understand. And the big thing for me is for my kids. It's a bit like a memoir type thing really as well, so they understand. And also, you get a lot of people at people's funerals and they don't generally have a bad word about someone, and I don't want that. I wanted people to say, to be fair, he is a bit of a pain in the ass. He's not the nicest person at times, because no one's perfect and everyone's, so it's good. So it's got a bit of everything in there, but then also it's got the understanding what the family are going through, and what I want them to see me as, and hopefully I can sort of last and know that I fought as well, and I'm still here. We've still got, it could be a few years, it could be a long time. I'm doing the most I can. The big saying I say is like, I want my kids to come and see me. I don't want them to have to come and see me in a few years. So, writing that, hopefully it gets a bit of everything. I've seen people sort of come up to me and shake me like a little bit and say, what you done to me? 1 minute I'm laughing, 1 minute I'm crying, but then also I'm getting understanding and learning as well. And they're like, I had a good child friend phoned me up and he went, "Cool, this is unbelievable, Steve. I'm reading it," and he's known me like for years, and he was like, "It's just so true." Like, and I said, "Well, it is what it is. You know, I'm not someone that's going to tell fibs and stuff like that. That, you know, that's exactly, I've laid it out there, and so is everyone else that put into the book as well." And you know, like I said, John Woodhouse was just phenomenal.
You said that realistically, knowing what you do now, you would not have played rugby in the first place, and you don't want your kids playing under these circumstances. Do you have any anger towards the rugby authorities for presiding over a culture that caused this to happen?
Yeah, you got to be. There's a lot of frustration, and there's a lot of people that have lost their lives now. And it's not until you start scratching the surface that you start seeing stuff come out, and you start looking, and you look back, and you know, there's been evidence out there for 100 years of what's going on. And you know, for us to open our eyes and just to see like the whole, you know, we put our boots on, we trained, we done the best we could, you know, and hopefully I've done the best I could, and you know, we achieved what we achieved. I just wish other people in their roles and their jobs everywhere involved it had done the same, because if they had, I don't think we'd be in this position.
And I understand that you're getting support for your mental health as well. Tell me about that.
I'm currently working with a Dr. Gavin Newby, and he's a neuro psychologist, which is the big one. So that's just learning how the brain's working and how it's been damaged and how to get the most out of it. So, you know, he explains that, you know, my brain's like an old Nokia battery. So one of them, remember them, where you sort of unplug it and suddenly it's on 50%, but it had 100%. And that's the problem with my brain. You know, I just keep shutting down. So before I didn't understand that. So I was just shutting down all the time and being emotional a lot more and forgetful really badly and things. Whereas now, you know, like today, this morning, I've just slept, chilled out because I knew I was doing this. Yeah. And then after this, I'll have a nap. And I think, so I'm 43 years old. Why on earth was I doing that? Because I never needed to, but I have to now because I've got to understand what's going on. So, you know, Dr. Gavin's been phenomenal for me. And then also like the medication side, I've just started medication, you know, and there was a big sort of, I don't know, pushback from me on that at first, because, you know, I see myself as being sort of a bit old school, and suddenly you fix yourself, and excuse the phrase, and I'm sorry if I get shouted at for said, but you know, in the old day they used to call it happy pills, and you used to see people go on them, and they just weren't with it, were they? They were sort of just not, and I just didn't want to be like that. Obviously, I wanted to be the best I can, but on the other end, I had that worry of, and they're like, "Look, Steve, that's completely changed now. You know, the medication you can go on now can sort of level you out, because I don't want the high. I'm actually more scared of the highs than the lows when I'm up and down. So these sort of take a bit of the edge of both off, and the emotional side to it. And that's what I've said now. I've had my life the way I look at it. You know, I've got my young kids, and I just want to be the best I can for them, really. So yeah, the understanding's getting there, and I'm on red light treatment that helps me with the inflammation. I'm on with thin air as well. I'm there with like an oxygen treatment with them, and that's been phenomenal just to get my body back and try and just get some of the damage from the brain, the inflammation that was on the brain down, and get my body working and the oxygen in my body. And you know, I'm trying all different things, and I've been lucky enough now as well. You know, I've started a role with Medigold Occupational Health, and the big part of their company is mental health. And I can't back this up at the moment, but through what I'm learning quite quickly now is a lot of this mental health could be down to brain injury as well. So it's not, you know, this time of the year, a lot of people go skiing. So they have a fall on the slopes, go to the bar later on, carry on, don't think anything. It can be a few weeks later, suddenly start feeling tired, a bit emotional, and that could be down to a brain injury. So it's not just, it's a pure mental health, what's going on. So if people can get diagnosed with this now, you can understand it more. And that's what I'm trying to do now, you know, with Medigold, and they've been phenomenal, because I know I'm lucky. I've had to quit my jobs. I couldn't work on big sites. I can't, like the office, sometimes a lot of times I'll come out of meetings and I'm just thinking, what has just gone on there? And the problem is I'm talking quite well. My vocabulary's shrunk considerably, but doing like the audio book was just, the first session was horrendous, because they put me in this little room and obviously put the iPad in front of me. So I started reading, and suddenly after a couple of minutes, the other chap who was there with me, Stephen, came and he said, "Steve, what are you reading?" I'm like, "I'm reading that." He was like, "You're not." And he said, so he got played back, and it was just like, what I was reading to my brain, to my mouth, had completely changed. And once again, that was another sort of low blow for me, because I thought I'd got as low as I could. And then so I come home, spoke to the kids, and I said, "Look, when I read you a nighttime story, do I read the book that I'm reading?" And they're like, "Sometimes you do, and sometimes we thought you were just making it up." Or little jokes with my wife Steph on Twitter. You read a joke, and she'd laugh, and she was like, "Oh no, I sort of understood what you were talking about," so I'd laugh. So it was another thing. I just didn't know what was going on. So it's sort of another thing that sort of taken away. But then on the other hand, we sort of laugh about it. And my kids, in this family now, we've got a bit of a dark sense of humour, and that's how we sort of get through it. And the kids are brilliant. They're loving when they need to, and when I'm sort of having a bit of a bad time, but I'm not too emotional, they sort of just take the mick out of me a bit and stuff like that, and sort of laugh about it and try and tell me different names when I can't remember their names and things. But we're one of them. That's how you get it through it, isn't it? It's one of them. It's we're also, it's weird looking at a half pint full.
Yeah.
Like Christmas was brilliant this year because of Steph. Normally I cook on a big dinner on a Christmas Day, but this is like the way life's changing, so we're having to organise things. So Christmas Day, up early like you do, open the presents, and then rather than me cooking big dinner and that, so I've had an early start, sort of quite emotional with the kids, and that's brilliant. And suddenly start cooking. We just had sort of nibbles all day, and then I played with the kids, had a nap, came back, played with the kids a bit more. We had earlier sort of night. Then the Boxing Day, I got up. So the kids, then we said, right, go on your computers and things. If you want to speak to your friends, you can. But then it was a bit of family time. Then I started cooking. So we had 2 great days, whereas it would have been 2 bad days because I would have tried to do too much, fall apart, got angry around the kid. Would have, it wouldn't have been great. But so looking at it, if anything, I think even if I didn't have dementia, but doing that suits the family as well. So we're actually working out ways to have good family time, really. And that's good for us.
Is there a long-term prognosis for your cognitive health, or is that an impossible question to answer?
It's getting worse. I know it's getting worse. And my wife, she's seen that it's getting worse. But time frame, because it's the probable CT, obviously you can't get that until after you've died and they can dissect your brain. But we can see that things have got worse over the last couple of years. But then suddenly, hopefully, with modern medication and things like that, but then also lifestyle now, like as well. So you try all the little 1%ers to try and help it. I'm trying to do, and I was having to do night work before to work, which is the worst thing you can do because obviously lack of sleep and that. So now I've had to come out of that. So now, I'm getting better sleep, looking at diets, looking at everything possible, really. Like I said, just to give it a go, see if it works. And, it's sort of like a hand grenade. You just don't know when it's going to go off, but it is. And, you look at some people, Dawn Astle, Jeff Astle's daughter, the ex-West Brom footballer, his turned around very quickly, and he passed away very quickly after being diagnosed and that, whereas there's been others that have been 10, 15 years. And there's, a lot of footballers now being diagnosed with it, and they're 60s and 70s. So I'm hoping, hopefully we can sort of drag this out. But, like I said, rather than looking at the past, we're just looking at the near future as such and things like that. And then, we'll start planning after that happens. And I think, with COVID, looking at, sounds awful, another negative, but looking at it positive, we've had some great family time, brought some old family traditions around, like eating around the table every time together, walks together, everything like that. So, you just look at bad situations and try and flip them a little bit and think, do you know what? It's not that bad, really. It could be a lot worse, and we've just got to try and get it. And for me, the amount of people that have come forward and saying, like, thanks so much for doing the book. You've helped us. So many people, like, that's really helped for me, because a lot of people turn around, oh, how many books is so? And I'll be honest, I'm not that bothered. That sounds bad. The book company might go mad at me for that, but I'm not. I'm more bothered that it's helping people, and that was the point of doing it. And for me, if people, and it's non-sports people as well that are saying, Steve, like, this is unbelievable. Thank you so much. And, you know, it's one of them ones, until you mention it to someone, no one talks about it. And then suddenly now they know. So many people, oh, you know, my mum, my dad, my nan, my granddad, my auntie, you know, they had dementia. That was horrendous. You know, Steph's nan, she passed away a few years of dementia. And that's like one of the things at the beginning when I was being tested. She even said to the doctor, you know, so what was I saying then?
You were saying your wife's grandmother had dementia.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. She had dementia and she passed away. And so Steph said to the doctor, she said, it's really weird. It's like he's got dementia, but I know he hasn't because he's too young. And the doctor couldn't say anything then because she was testing us. But then, of course, then a diagnosis came in and it all came together sort of thing, really. So, yeah, so, you know, and I'm speaking to a lot of the other lads now as well that are, you know, some are in their 30s and they're suffering as well. So you just, you know, we're sort of coming together. And like I said, with Alex Popham and going there and doing what he does, you know, we're really starting to hopefully not turn this around because it's so bad, but people are starting to realise and know that there's help out there. And you know, I've tried to go down, and I don't want to kick the NHS route or anything like that, but people just not recognising this, you know, in young men or young women, young people. So, you know, I went to see one specialist and he said, Steve, it's nice you're here, but you won't be seeing me again because you're under 60. We don't treat people. It's like you. At first, he was like, you haven't got it. And then suddenly he looked at the results and he's like, oh, right, yeah. He said, but I still can't, we don't see anyone under 60. So I was like, where do I go? And he's like, I don't know. And that's, you know, that's the worrying thing now, that there are going to be hundreds, and the cost of homes for people. And it's, you know, like I said, we're young. So we could be going in homes in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And there's no homes that take people for under 60s. You know, you're looking at £100,000 a year. And that's if you can find somewhere. But, you know, we're big lads, you know, so if there's one place in a home and there's someone that's 6'3", 18, 19 stone, and sometimes can flare up a bit because of this, or you've got someone that half his size, who are the home going to take? Because it's only fair on the people that work there and the people that are there as well. So, you know, there's sort of that I'm trying not to worry about, but you've got to talk about it because it's thinking, right, when it does occur, we need some sort of help for that. So, you know, it's one of them. You sort of look at it, you try and be happy and things, but then also it's sort of worrying as well, like, you know, what is going to happen.
How do you feel about being a lab rat for all sorts of alternative treatments for dementia?
Exactly. So that's the main thing, isn't it? Like what everyone's been through these last few years. Suddenly, you know, there's one thing we should all do is just be nice to each other, you know, because, you know, I think that's what you need. And, you know, there's a little bit too much sort of nastiness and that around, I think, at the moment. Everyone thinks someone's better than everyone else. There's no need. Let's just try and help everyone and just live life to what we can.
Back to rugby, if I can, Steve. What could the RFU do to better protect players going forward?
Lower the contact, the amount of contact in training. That's got to go down considerably. Also, at the professional side, because obviously you've got the amateur side, and that really needs to be looked after as well. But if looking at the professional side, players should be tested and baseline tests done properly. You know, the saliva tests they're looking into, blood tests, brain scans. So it's a regular MOT. Players will be looking at probably retiring earlier, perhaps, or have a higher chance of retiring. But we would rather them retire healthy than be like me in their 30s and 40s, to be honest. And that's what we've got to look at as well. And like I said, if we could lower that amount of contact and the exposure to the subconcussions, that's a big step forward.
Steve, you've been a hero on the pitch and a hero in your book, All Again, with your message about dementia, and you're a hero to your family as well. So it's been a privilege to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us on GB News.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.